Tell the story. What was your intent when that gun fired?
I guess my intent was just to get his attention.
In January 2021, San Antonio police responded to a welfare check at a luxury apartment. Inside, they found 34-year-old rapper Martell Derouen, known as Cardone and cousin of Beyoncé, dead from a gunshot. The scene was chaotic, and surveillance showed a barefoot woman in a green dress pacing with a pistol outside his door. From then on, the case became a battle of stories. Was it jealousy or fear? When San Antonio police responded to a welfare check at a luxury apartment complex, they expected a routine call. Instead, what they found inside would unravel into one of the most shocking and complicated murder cases the city had seen in years. The front door told the first part of the story. A single, perfectly round bullet hole pierced the wood, just inches from the peephole. When officers finally forced their way inside, the scene was grim. Lying just beyond the doorway was 34-year-old Martell Derouen, known in the music world as Cardone. He had been shot once in the head, his life cut short instantly. But what struck investigators wasn't just the violence of the act, it was the chaos that surrounded it. The apartment looked like a storm had blown through, shattered glass, broken furniture, and signs of a struggle everywhere. Yet, the deadbolt was locked from the inside, raising an unsettling question. How could someone fire through the door and then leave without unlocking it? Neighbors reported hearing shouting and the sounds of things breaking days earlier. A Ring camera down the hallway captured something even stranger. A barefoot woman in a green dress, holding both a phone and a gun, pacing just outside Martell's apartment. Soon after, a bizarre 911 call would surface. Someone pretending to be Martell's wife, reporting concern about a hole in the door and claiming she couldn't reach him. But the details didn't quite add up.
911 is for a duty, police, fire, or EMS.
I need now.
What address?
It's 16735 O'Connor Road, not O'Connor, Rockingham Parkway.
16735?
Yes.
Okay, this is the tower?
Yes.
Okay, and your name?
My name is Derouen.
Okay, what's going on?
I'm trying to get my apartment, but I'm not able to get in. I'm just not able to get in, and I think my husband is injured.
Your husband's hurt?
Yes.
Do you hear him?
No, he's not responding. I called him. He's just not responding. And there's a hole in his door, and I don't know what's going on.
There's a hole in the door?
Yes.
Okay, where are you now?
I'm not the same address.
Are you outside the apartment, or where are you?
I'm outside the door, and I cannot get in.
And you don't have a key?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Do you live there?
Yes, I do.
And what is your name?
My name is Joya Derouen.
Spell the first name?
Joya is Caoia.
And your husband's name?
Martell.
Last name?
Deroun, Deroun.
Alright, and it's apartment 1605?
Yes.
Alright, we'll get an officer over there.
From that moment forward, this case became less about what happened, because the evidence was overwhelming, and more about why. Was this an act of cold-blooded murder? Or a tragic accident fueled by jealousy, fear, and desperation? Before his name ever appeared in headlines, Martell Derouen was known simply as a man who wore many hats: soldier, musician, husband, and friend. To those closest to him, he wasn't just another face in the music industry. He was a man who carried himself with quiet strength and humility. Martell served 6 years in the United States Air Force, rising to the rank of sergeant. His work in Air Force intelligence meant he handled some of the military's most sensitive information, and those who worked with him described him as sharp, disciplined, and deeply committed. After completing his service, he carried those same values into his civilian life. But Martell wasn't only defined by the uniform he once wore. Music was his true passion. Under the stage name Cardone, he carved out a space for himself in San Antonio's vibrant hip-hop scene. In 2016, he released his album Trunk Bag, and in 2020, he dropped his single Magic, continuing to build momentum in his career. By then, he had even signed with The Orchard, a Sony-affiliated label, putting him on the brink of what many believed could be his big breakthrough. And yet, despite those achievements, and despite being related to one of the biggest names in music, Beyoncé, through his grandmother Agnes Derouen, Martell never leaned on his connections. Friends said he rarely even mentioned the family tie. Fame didn't define him. What mattered most to him was the work itself and the relationships he built along the way. In his personal life, Martell had married his high school sweetheart, Joya, back in 2007. Though the couple had separated 2 years before his death, they remained close. Friends said they still spoke weekly and kept their relationship respectful, even after going their separate ways. It was a testament to Martell's character. He valued loyalty, even when life became complicated. All of this makes what happened next even harder to process. Because when news spread of Martell's death, his family and friends could barely believe it. To them, he wasn't someone who lived recklessly or made dangerous enemies. He was a decorated veteran, a devoted son and husband, and an artist finally stepping into the spotlight. And now, in a matter of seconds, all of it had been stolen. When investigators finally pushed open the deadbolt door to Martell's apartment, the sight inside left little doubt that something violent had taken place. The neat, modern unit had been turned upside down. Broken dishes were scattered across the kitchen floor, shards glinting under the apartment lights. In the bedroom, the bed frame had been torn apart, the headboard ripped away, and the mattress stripped bare. Sheets were crumpled into a twisted pile, alongside a broken acrylic nail and a dog tag, small but telling signs that a physical struggle had erupted in those final hours. The deeper investigators went, the stranger the scene became. A pistol case sat empty in the closet, the manufacturer's box for a gun that was no longer there. A nearby basket held cartridges, but the weapon itself was missing. Whoever had been inside Martell's apartment that night had left in a hurry, and possibly with his firearm in hand. Neighbors soon filled in pieces of the timeline. One woman, who lived directly below Martell's unit, reported that just a few nights earlier, on January 22nd, she had heard what sounded like a heated argument erupting upstairs. She described loud voices, shouting, and the distinct sound of furniture breaking. The noise was so intense that she recorded a short video of her ceiling, capturing fragments of the chaos happening above. But despite the volume of the fight, she never called police. To her, it just sounded like a couple's argument, something that would eventually fizzle out. Investigators, however, found evidence that someone had reached out for help that night. A 911 call surfaced from a woman locked out of an apartment in the very same complex. On the call, she identified herself as Joya Derouen, Martell's estranged wife. She claimed she couldn't get into her apartment, that she believed her husband was hurt, and pointed out a hole in the door. But as investigators replayed the call, red flags began to emerge. The caller mispronounced Joya's last name, got Martell's age wrong, and even gave an incorrect phone number. It was as if the caller knew just enough to play the part, but not enough to make the story believable. The most chilling clue, though, didn't come from inside the apartment or the 911 call. It came from a hallway ring camera just a few doors down. When detectives reviewed the footage, what they saw sent shivers down their spines. Around 9 p.m. on January 22nd, the camera captured a young woman, barefoot, dressed in a long green sundress. In one hand, she clutched a phone. In the other, clear as day, a pistol. She walked quickly, nervously back and forth near Martell's apartment door, pausing at times to knock and call out. The image was haunting. A woman with a weapon, alone in a quiet hallway, pacing outside the very door where Martell would soon be found dead. Taken together, the evidence painted a disturbing picture. There had been a violent struggle inside the apartment. A mysterious woman had been caught on camera with Martell's missing gun. And someone, posing as Martell's wife, had tried to throw investigators off the trail with a misleading 911 call. The question was no longer if Martell had been murdered. The evidence was undeniable. The real question was, who was this woman in the green dress, and why did Martell's life end in such a brutal way? The woman caught on the ring camera was soon identified as 21-year-old Sasha Scare, an aspiring musician with dreams of making it big. On the surface, she seemed like just another young artist trying to find her place in the industry. She modeled, wrote music, and dabbled in graphic design, creating logos and flyers for small businesses to support herself. To outsiders, she was ambitious and creative, chasing the same dream that Martell himself had once pursued. But Sasha's past carried shadows that now seemed impossible to ignore. Just a year before Martell's murder, Sasha had been involved in a deadly shooting in Austin. In December 2019, she and her boyfriend, Andrew Bass, had arranged a late-night meeting that police later described as a setup. What was supposed to be a marijuana deal spiraled into violence. Gunfire erupted and Andrew was shot and killed. Investigators discovered text messages on Sasha's phone showing she had orchestrated the meeting. She was charged with aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon, though she later bonded out. Then in 2020, another tragedy struck. Sasha was badly injured in a propane tank explosion that tore through a residential building. The blast left her with burns and scars across her face and body. By early 2021, just as the wounds had begun to heal, she re-emerged in San Antonio's music scene, seemingly trying to rebuild her life. But that fresh start collided with Martell's world in ways no one expected. The two had first met years earlier, during one of Martell's music video shoots. Sasha, then a teenager, was modeling and looking for opportunities in music. Martell, always supportive of young talent, offered guidance. Later, after his separation from his wife Joya, he and Sasha became romantically involved. To friends, the relationship seemed complicated. Martell was older, established, and disciplined, while Sasha was young, impulsive, and still figuring out her path. By January 2021, their lives had become entangled. Sasha was often seen at Martell's apartment, sometimes working on art projects or music, sometimes staying over. But when Martell was found dead, Sasha was nowhere to be found. Her belongings, however, told a different story. Inside the apartment, police recovered her shoes, a large purse, her iPad, and even debit cards with her name on them, items that tied her to the scene without question. The woman in the hallway video wasn't just a stranger. She was someone Martell knew, someone who had been with him in those final hours. As Martell's family grieved, law enforcement issued a public manhunt. Sasha's photo appeared on news broadcasts and across social media. Friends pleaded on Instagram, "Turn yourself in." The once promising musician who had dreamed of stardom was now the prime suspect in the murder of a man loved by his family, respected in his community, and on the cusp of achieving his own musical breakthrough. And the biggest mystery still lingered. Had Sasha pulled the trigger in cold blood, or was there a darker, more complicated story behind that bullet hole in the door? When Sasha Scare finally stood trial for the murder of Martell Derouen, the courtroom quickly became the stage for two very different stories. On one side, prosecutors laid out a case that painted Sasha as angry, deceptive, and ultimately responsible for Martell's death. On the other, her defense insisted she was a young woman caught in a violent argument, acting out of fear and self-preservation. The prosecution wasted no time presenting the physical evidence. They pointed to the wreckage inside Martell's apartment, broken furniture, shattered dishes, torn sheets, as proof of a heated struggle. They reminded jurors of the acrylic nail and dog tag on the bedroom floor, signs of a physical altercation that had turned ugly. Then came the hallway footage. Jurors watched as Sasha, barefoot and wearing a green dress, walked nervously back and forth with Martell's missing gun in hand. Prosecutors argued this wasn't the behavior of someone afraid for her life. It was the behavior of someone who had been thrown out and returned in anger. And then there was the 911 call. The prosecution played the recording of the woman claiming to be Martell's estranged wife, Joya. But the details didn't match. Names were mispronounced, Martell's age was given incorrectly, and the phone number didn't belong to Joya at all. Even more damning, Joya herself testified that she recognized Sasha's voice on the tape. To the prosecution, this wasn't just deception. It was Sasha's attempt to cover her tracks after realizing the bullet she fired had struck Martell. Finally, prosecutors explained the bullet's trajectory. The shot had entered near the peephole, exactly the spot where Martell would have been standing if he had leaned down to see who was outside. They argued Sasha had deliberately aimed and fired, knowing he was just on the other side of that door. But the defense told a very different story. They withheld their opening statement until after the state's case, and when they finally spoke, they introduced only one witness, Sasha herself. Taking the stand, she told jurors that she and Martell had argued after she received a phone call from a photographer. She claimed Martell became jealous and violent, that he shoved and choked her, and that she fled barefoot with only her phone and his gun in hand. According to Sasha, she returned later, not out of anger but because her belongings, including her purse and bank cards, were still inside. She demonstrated for the jury how she had banged on Martell's door, insisting the gun went off by accident. Through tears, she repeated that she never meant to hurt him, that she only wanted his attention.
Miss Scar, when you fired that shot, did you know Martell was behind that door?
No, sir, I didn't.
Did you mean to hurt Martell?
Not at all.
Tell the jury, what was your intent when
I guess my intent was just to get his attention.
But under cross-examination, the state picked apart her story. If Sasha truly feared for her life, why did she return to the apartment instead of calling police from a safe location? If she was terrified of Martell, why approach his locked door while holding a gun? And if the shooting was an accident, why call 911 pretending to be his wife instead of identifying herself? Time and again, prosecutors pressed her on contradictions. Her explanation for why she raised the gun to get his attention made little sense. At one point, when asked directly why she aimed it at the door, she admitted, "I just went mad." Piece by piece, the prosecution dismantled her version of events, painting her not as a frightened victim, but as someone who had made a choice in anger and then tried to cover it up. By the time both sides rested, jurors were left with two conflicting stories. One of self-defense gone wrong, the other of a deliberate act of murder. And the weight of deciding which one to believe now rested entirely on their shoulders. After just 2 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with a clear verdict: guilty of murder. For Martell's family, it was bittersweet, relief that justice was served, but heartbreak knowing no sentence could bring him back. When it came to punishment, the jury gave Sasha Scare 55 years in prison. She won't even be eligible for parole until 2048. But the words that stayed with everyone came from Martell's sister. Looking straight at Sasha, she said, "The pain you brought to my family is unbearable. Fix your sheets, because you've made your bed, and now it's time for you to lay in it." Martell Cardone Derouen will be remembered not for this tragedy, but for the life he lived. A proud Air Force veteran, a rising musician, and a man who cared deeply for those around him. His story is a painful reminder of how quickly a promising life can be stolen, and how behind every headline, there's a family left to carry the loss forever.